Hello everyone and welcome back to my journey of creating a city builder game from scratch using my own engine. And today I'm going to be doing another day in the life video, and I'm also going to be implementing some of the feedback I got about the roads in the last devlog video. So it's 7:40 in the morning right now, still very dark and gloomy outside. I'm not getting started with work just yet. I'm going to have some breakfast first, then I always have a few chores to do in the morning, and I'll aim to start programming at around 9ish. So I'm ready to get started with some programming now. I've just finished off all my chores for the day, watered the plants, walked the dog, answered some emails, and I'm ready to get started now. So the plan for today is to work through some of the feedback I got after the last devlog video about the road updates and the road placement tools. So I'm going to get started with that, and I'll show you what I'm working on in a bit. So starting off today with a quick change to the placement tool. So as I showed you last week, a road can bend two ways. It can bend either this way when you're placing it, or it can bend this way. And the way that it bends just depends on which direction you go from the start tile. So you can choose which way it bends. However, in some situations it only really makes sense for the road to bend one way. So for example, if I'm building a road from here to here, this is the only way that it really makes sense for the road to bend. It doesn't really make sense for it to bend this way because then it's going over that road at the top. But sometimes what happens is that when you're building a road, you go too fast and you go the wrong direction from the start tile, and this ends up happening, and it just feels wrong. It feels like it shouldn't be happening. So I've just made a quick change to the placement code and added a check to see whether one way makes more sense to bend than the other way. So now even if you go the wrong way from the start, it knows that the road should really be bending this way. After the last devlog video, I got a lot of suggestions regarding the issue I was having with the ugly seams between the road tiles, and a few people suggested something that I think would actually fix it quite easily, which is to use an array texture instead of a texture atlas. If you remember, the issue last time came from me having to use the modulo operation to calculate the texture coordinates, which I had to do because when using a texture atlas, you need to have the exact texture coordinates. But if I use an array texture instead, then I can straight up just use the vertex positions as the texture coordinates, along with GL repeat. So no need to mod anything, which means no problem. So thanks lots to those people who suggested that. As I mentioned last time, I do actually plan to use a completely different technique for rendering the road markings anyway, and that is still the plan, but I've never actually used array textures before, and I'd quite like to learn about them. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to do that. So right now I'm just reading up about them, and in a bit I'm going to try implementing them and see if I can fix that issue. 20 to 12 now, I'm still just working on the array texture stuff. I haven't quite got it working yet, and I'm thinking I might actually leave it till tomorrow so I can get some other stuff done today. But something I can show you is something I implemented last week, which was some changes to the delete tool. So in the game, previously, to delete stuff you had to click on every tile individually, which was obviously very tedious. So like I did with the road placement tool, I added a click and drag option so that you can now delete large areas of the world at a time. And I'm not really happy with the visuals of this yet. I don't really like the big square pattern it creates, so I'll work on that at some point. But for now, I just wanted to get that functionality into the game. So I'm just going to take a quick break now. I'm planning to make some homemade pasta for lunch, and to do that I need to make the dough now so that it has time to rest in time for lunch. So I'll get that done now, and then I'll probably have a bit more time to do some programming before I have my lunch. One more quick update before lunch. So in the last video you might have seen that I added an animation to the placing of the roads, and a few people pointed out that it looked a little bit strange because the road starts first at ground level, then goes up and then does the bounce, and they suggested quite rightly that it would look better if the road started in the air and then just fell to the ground and did the bounce. So I changed the easing function a bit. It was literally just this one line here to shift it all a bit to the right, to the left. And that now looks, I think, a lot nicer. The roads just kind of fall to the ground in a cascade. So that's all good, and it's time to have some lunch. This afternoon I'm working on a new mode for the road placement tool. So in the last video you saw me create this placement tool here, which allows you to drag out long sections of road, and that's great for creating these long straight roads. But a few people mentioned that it might be nice to also have another mode which allows you to kind of draw the road onto the world, so that every tile that your mouse cursor goes over has a road added to it. And that's what I've got started working on here. So you can see you can click and hold, and then you can kind of draw the road, and then you let go of the mouse button to place it, or you can right click to cancel the placement. So I know it looks like this is already pretty much done, but all that's happening at the moment is that every time the cursor goes over a new square, a road gets added to that square. Doesn't matter if there's a house there, if there's already a road there, or anything. So it's very basic right now, and obviously needs a lot more work. Just been working on a new feature for this new placement mode, which is that when you're drawing your road, if at any point you make a mistake and you want to redo it, you can just kind of retrace your steps, and that allows you to redo that part of the road. So you can pretty much retrace as much as you want, so you can basically edit the road as you're making it without having to cancel and start again. So that's good. I'm going to take another quick break now. I just want to get outside, enjoy the sun before it disappears, and go for a bike ride. Back to work on the road placement, and I've just been sorting out how it interacts with other roads. So you can see it can go across them without any problems now, just ignores them, and it can actually also self-intersect without any issues. So all that I've got to do now is to sort out how it interacts with other objects, because that's not good. And I also need to sort out invalid road placements, because this also isn't good. So you've just been fixing how the road placement works with obstacles. So if it comes across an obstacle, it now stops, and it won't continue until you move your cursor back to the final tile, and then you can continue. And the same happens if you try and go into an unplaceable road position like this tile here. This tile is not possible because then there'd be 4 roads altogether, which isn't allowed. So again, it stops until you return your cursor to that end road tile, and then you can continue. So that's all looking good, all coming along nicely. Also, in other good news, a package just arrived for me containing lots of spices that I ordered, which is good timing because I wanted to make a curry tonight. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not quite dinner time yet. I've still got some final bits of programming to do today. 5:30, just been adding the final touches to this new road placement tool. So I fixed some stuff to do with the highlighting, so that the roads that already exist also get highlighted when you go over them like this, so you can still see where your end tile is. And then when you go into a tile where a road can't be placed, it now highlights it in red, just to give some feedback to the player. So I think that's it. I think this new placement tool, this new placement mode is now fully working and complete. So that's great. So I'm going to stop now, I'm going to have a bit of a rest, make some dinner, and enjoy the evening. Just been cooking the curry for dinner, and today I thought I'd also try cooking something that I've never cooked before. It's cassava flour porridge. I've never used cassava flour before. I don't think I've used it right here either. And it looks a bit like mashed potato. It tastes like not very much actually, but I probably made it wrong. But I thought I'd give it a try. I ended up doing one more bit of programming this evening. It was just bugging me a bit that I hadn't got those array textures working, so I had another look at it, had another go, and I managed to get them working this time. So instead of that texture atlas that I was using last time for the road markings, I now have one image for every different road marking, and they get loaded up as an array texture, which, as I talked about earlier, fixes that issue. So there are now no more ugly marks between the seams, which is wonderful. So that's going to be it for today, and probably for this year as well. So I hope you all have a fantastic time over the holidays, have a Merry Christmas, have a great start to the new year, and I'll see you all next time.